Stay down. You've already lost more than a fight.
3 in the morning, and I'm standing in my own kitchen like a stranger in someone else's house. The insomnia has been my faithful companion for weeks now, ever since Lila started working those mysterious late projects that required overnight stays at the office. Right. Because nothing says corporate dedication like packing Victoria's Secret lingerie for a budget meeting. I'm Evan Rourke, 44 years old, recently unemployed technical manager with a military background, and a growing suspicion that my wife thinks I'm an idiot. The joke's on her. I'm just patient. The suitcase sits open on our dining room table like evidence at a crime scene. Black lace, red silk, perfume that costs more than most people's car payments. All for an emergency client presentation in Cleveland. Funny thing about Cleveland, it's only 2 hours away, but apparently requires a 3-day wardrobe that would make a Vegas showgirl jealous. You're up? That's new. Lila's voice cuts through the darkness like a blade. She's standing in the doorway, still in her work clothes at this ungodly hour, looking like she stepped out of a corporate magazine. Beautiful, cold, and calculating. The holy trinity of modern executive women. Couldn't sleep, I say, keeping my voice level. Your perfume's on the guest room pillow. Odd place to rest your head? Her laugh is sharp enough to cut glass. Trust issues, Evan? Really? After 10 years of marriage, this is what we've become? Just making an observation. She moves past me to grab a bottle of water from the fridge, and I catch a whiff of cologne that definitely isn't mine. Expensive stuff. The kind that comes in crystal bottles and costs more than my monthly gym membership. I'll be back Sunday night, she says, not meeting my eyes. Try not to burn the house down while I'm gone. I'll do my best. She's already walking away when her phone buzzes. The screen lights up with a name that makes my arterial pressure spike. Brandon Cross. I know Brandon. Strategic consultant, former college football star, drives a BMW that probably costs more than most people's annual salary. The kind of guy who wears $1,000 suits and thinks the world owes him everything. Lila snatches the phone before I can see the message, but her face tells me everything I need to know. Guilt mixed with excitement like a kid caught with their hand in the cookie jar but still planning to grab more cookies. Work call? I ask. Always is with you, isn't it? She's already heading upstairs. Some of us still have careers to worry about. That stings because it's designed to. 3 weeks ago, I was a respected technical manager at Morrison Tech Solutions. Then the layoffs hit, and suddenly my 10 years of service meant nothing. The severance package was supposed to cushion the blow, but even that got tangled up in corporate red tape thanks to my wife's sister Danielle, who runs HR like her personal kingdom. I listened to Lila's footsteps on the stairs, then the sound of our bedroom door closing. Not slamming, that would be too honest. Just a soft, final click that says more than any argument ever could. My phone buzzes on the counter. Email notification at 3:15 a.m. Who the hell sends business emails at this hour? The sender makes my stomach drop. Morrison Tech HR Department. The subject line is even better. Role elimination. Final notice. I open it with the kind of dread usually reserved for medical test results. Dear Mr. Rourke, after further review, your position has been eliminated, effective immediately. Your severance package has been canceled due to performance concerns raised during your final review period. Please return all company property by Monday morning. Best regards, Danielle Hayes, Director of Human Resources Performance Concerns. That's rich. I had stellar reviews for 9 years running, then suddenly I'm a liability the moment Danielle decides she doesn't like me. Coincidence? About as likely as Lila's sudden interest in weekend business trips. I read the email twice, then delete it. No point in getting angry at 3 a.m. when I can channel that energy into something more productive later. But first, I need to make a phone call. Jerry Mullins has been my lawyer since my divorce from wife number 1 back when I was young and stupid enough to think love conquered all. He's also a night owl with a reputation for fighting dirty when the situation calls for it. He answers on the second ring. Evan? Christ! What time is it? Late enough for bad news, early enough to do something about it. Let me guess, Morrison Tech? How'd you know? Because I've been expecting this call for 3 weeks. Your wife's sister isn't exactly subtle when she's got it out for someone. What did they hit you with? I read him the email. There's a long pause on his end, then something that sounds suspiciously like laughter. Evan, my friend, you're about to get a windfall if you play this right. Come again? Your employment contract, the one you signed when you started there. Do you remember the exit clause? Honestly, I don't. 10 years ago, I was just happy to have a job that paid well and didn't involve people shooting at me. I signed whatever they put in front of me. Refresh my memory. If an employee is terminated during scheduled vacation time without cause, the company owes 10 times the normal severance package for each year of service. You've been there 10 years, Evan, and according to my records, you were supposed to start your vacation today. The numbers start clicking in my head like a slot machine hitting jackpot. My normal severance would have been 6 months' salary. 10 times that, multiplied by 10 years of service. Jerry, are you telling me what I think you're telling me? I'm telling you to get some sleep and meet me at my office tomorrow morning. And Evan, don't sign anything, don't return anything, and don't let them know you're onto their mistake until we're ready to move. I hang up the phone and look around my kitchen with fresh eyes. The house suddenly feels different, like I'm seeing it clearly for the first time in months. The expensive appliances Lila insisted we needed. The artwork she picked out without consulting me. The life we built together that apparently means nothing to her. Upstairs, I can hear her on the phone, voice low and intimate. She thinks I can't hear her, but military training dies hard. Sound carries in this old house, especially late at night when everything else is quiet. Just keep him busy, she's saying. I'll be with you at the Westin by tomorrow night. I want him out of here before I get back Sunday. A pause, then laughter. The kind of laugh she used to save for me, back when we were happy, or when I thought we were happy. Don't worry about the money, she continues. Once the divorce is final, we'll have more than enough to start over somewhere new. Maybe California. You always said you wanted to live near the beach. I stand at the bottom of the stairs, listening to my wife plan her future with another man in our bedroom, and something cold and hard settles in my chest. Not anger. That comes later. This is something more focused, more dangerous. They think they're so smart. They think they've got it all figured out. Fire the husband, steal his severance, run off with the boyfriend, and leave me with nothing but memories and debt. But they made one crucial mistake. They underestimated exactly who they're dealing with. I served 2 tours in Middle East before I became a corporate drone. I learned how to plan, how to wait, and how to strike when the enemy least expects it. Those skills don't disappear just because you trade combat boots for business suits. Lila wants to play games? Fine. But she's about to learn that some games have consequences she never saw coming. I head back to the kitchen and start a pot of coffee. It's going to be a long night, and I have a lot of planning to do. Tomorrow, the real fun begins. Saturday morning arrives with the kind of gray, drizzling rain that makes everything look like a noir film. Perfect weather for what I have in mind. Lila left 2 hours ago, suitcase in hand and guilt written all over her face. She kissed me goodbye like we were still a happy couple, but her eyes were already somewhere else. Someone else. I'll call you tonight, she said, not quite meeting my gaze. Sure you will. She paused at the door, maybe sensing something different in my tone. Is everything okay, Evan? Everything's perfect, sweetheart. Have fun in Cleveland. The lie came so easily, it surprised me. But then again, I've been getting a lot of practice lately. Now I'm sitting in my car, outside Marty's boxing club, watching the Saturday morning crowd file in for their weekend warrior sessions. Marty Kowalski owns the place. Former Army Ranger, current private investigator, and the only person I trust completely in this godforsaken city. The gym occupies the bottom floor of a converted warehouse in the old industrial district. No fancy equipment, no juice bars, no mirrors covering every wall. Just heavy bags, speed bags, and the kind of atmosphere that separates the serious from the tourists. I find Marty in his office, a cramped space above the main floor that overlooks the training area through a wall of windows. He's built like a fire hydrant, short, thick, and impossible to move when he doesn't want to be moved. The gray in his beard makes him look distinguished, but the scar running from his left ear to his jaw tells a different story. You look like hell, he says without looking up from his paperwork. Thanks. You always know just what to say. It's a gift. Coffee? He pours 2 cups of something that could probably strip paint, and I fill him in on the last 24 hours. Marty listens without interruption, occasionally nodding or making notes on a legal pad. So let me get this straight, he says when I finish. Your wife is cheating with some corporate pretty boy. Her sister fired you illegally, and they think they're going to ride off into the sunset with your money. That's the general idea. And you want me to help you destroy them. I want you to help me get what's mine. If they get destroyed in the process, that's just good fortune. Marty grins, and it's not a pleasant expression. I like the way you think. What do you need? Information? Phone records, financial records, anything that proves what they're planning? I also need to know everything about Brandon Cross. Where he lives, where he works, what he drives, who he knows. That's going to cost you. Jerry thinks I'm about to come into some money, a lot of money. Then consider it an investment in your future happiness. We shake hands, and I feel something loosen in my chest. For the first time since this nightmare started, I'm not alone. One more thing, Marty says as I head for the door. My guy Brian still works at Morrison Tech. If you need any digital forensics, he owes me a favor. Brian Chen. I remember him from my days at Morrison. Quiet kid, brilliant with computers, and absolutely invisible to management. The kind of person who sees everything and says nothing, which makes him perfect for what I have in mind. Set up a meeting. Already on it. I spend the rest of the morning driving around the city, getting reacquainted with places I haven't thought about in years. The Westin Hotel, where Lila is probably checking in with her boyfriend right about now. Brandon's office building downtown, all glass and steel and corporate arrogance. The courthouse, where I might need to file certain documents in the near future. By noon, I'm parked outside Vera's Tavern, a dive bar that's been serving the working class of this city since before I was born. Vera Kowalski, Marty's ex-wife and current business partner in ways that would probably surprise most people, runs the place with an iron fist and a sharp tongue. The lunch crowd is already settling in when I walk through the door. Construction workers, factory employees, a few off-duty cops, and the usual collection of regulars who treat the place like their personal social club. The kind of people who notice everything and remember even more. Vera spots me immediately. She's behind the bar, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and the kind of no-nonsense attitude that comes from dealing with drunk men for 30 years. Well, look what the cat dragged in, she says, not bothering to hide her grin. Heard you got yourself fired? News travels fast. Honey, in this town, gossip moves faster than light. What can I get you? Information and a beer. She draws me a pint of something local and leans across the bar. What kind of information? The kind that involves my wife, her boyfriend, and how long this has been going on. Vera's expression shifts from friendly to carnivory. She's always liked me, but she's never been particularly fond of Lila. Something about putting on airs and forgetting where you come from. Brandon Cross, she says without hesitation. Started coming in here about 6 months ago with some of his corporate buddies. Big spender, loud mouth, the kind of guy who tips 20% and expects everyone to kiss his A for it. And Lila started showing up with him about 2 months ago, always real careful about it. Different cars, never at the same time, that whole routine. But honey, when you've been in this business as long as I have, you learn to spot the signs. She slides a bowl of peanuts across the bar and lowers her voice. They usually grab a corner booth, order expensive wine, and spend most of their time whispering and giggling like teenagers. Makes me sick, honestly. You seem like a decent guy, Evan. You deserve better than that. I'm starting to figure that out. Good. Because word around here is that she's been bragging to anyone who'll listen about her big plans. New life, new city, new everything. Just as soon as she gets rid of the dead weight at home. The dead weight. That would be me. I finish my beer and leave Vera a generous tip. Information like this is worth its weight in gold, and I have a feeling I'm going to need all the allies I can get. My phone buzzes as I'm walking back to my car. Text message from an unknown number. This is Brian. Marty said you needed to talk. Meet me at the Starbucks on 5th Street in an hour. I'll be wearing a Morrison Tech polo shirt. Perfect. Time to start building my case. Brian looks exactly like I remember. Thin, nervous, with the kind of pale complexion that comes from spending too much time in front of computer screens. He's already seated at a corner table when I arrive, laptop open and fingers flying across the keyboard. Evan, he says, not looking up. Heard about what happened. That sucks, man. Yeah, well, life's full of surprises. Marty said you might be able to help me with something. Depends what you need. I'm not going to do anything illegal. Nothing illegal. I just need to recover some of my own data. Personal emails, phone records, that sort of thing. Stuff that should be mine anyway. Brian finally looks up, and I can see the wheels turning behind his eyes. He's smart enough to read between the lines, and honest enough to want to help if he can. Your wife's sister really screwed you over, he says quietly. Everyone in IT knows it. The official story doesn't match the documentation, if you know what I mean. I'm not sure I follow. Your performance reviews, your project completion rates, your client satisfaction scores, they're all excellent. Right up until 3 weeks ago when suddenly there's a bunch of negative comments that don't match your actual work history? Interesting. Very interesting. Is there any way to prove that? Maybe. If someone happened to have backed up the original files before they got modified, hypothetically speaking. Brian's laptop screen is angled away from me, but I can see enough to know he's accessing the Morrison Tech network. Technically, he's not supposed to be doing this from off-site, but technically a lot of things happen in the corporate world that aren't supposed to happen. Hypothetically, I say, how would someone go about recovering that kind of backup? Well, hypothetically, someone might have already done that, and hypothetically, they might be willing to share that information with someone who got screwed over by the system. He slides a flash drive across the table. It's so small I almost miss it. Everything's on there. Your original performance reviews, the modified versions, email chains between HR and management, the works. Should be enough to prove that your termination was retaliatory rather than performance-based. I pocket the drive carefully. I owe you one, Brian. Just promise me you'll make them pay for what they did. Danielle Hayes is a cancer in that company and everyone knows it. Maybe it's time someone did something about it. Oh, I plan to. Trust me on that. We shake hands and part ways, but I can see the satisfaction in his eyes. He's not the only Morrison Tech employee who's been waiting for someone to take down Danielle Hayes. I'm just the one with nothing left to lose. Back home, I spend the evening going through Brian's files. It's all there, just like he promised. My original reviews, glowing with praise and recommendations for advancement. The modified versions, suddenly full of concerns about my attitude, my work quality, my team leadership skills. But the real gold mine is in the email chains. Messages between Danielle and Lila discussing my situation and how to handle it. Messages between Danielle and upper management painting me as a disgruntled employee who needed to be removed before I became a problem. And most damning of all, a message thread between Lila and Brandon discussing their plans for my severance money and how they were going to use it to start their new life together. They documented everything, every lie, every manipulation, every step of their plan to destroy me and steal what was mine. They were so confident, so sure that I would never find out that they left a paper trail a blind man could follow. My phone rings just as I'm closing the laptop. Lila, calling from her romantic weekend getaway. "Hi, honey," she says, and her voice is warm and loving and completely fake. "Just wanted to check in and see how you're doing." "I'm fine. Having a quiet weekend at home." "Good. You deserve some rest after everything you've been through." In the background, I can hear music and laughter. Restaurant sounds. Brandon's voice saying something that makes her giggle. "Where are you calling from?" I ask. Sounds busy for a hotel room. "Oh, we're just grabbing dinner after the presentation. You know how these client meetings go?" "Sure I do. Well, don't let me keep you from your work." "I love you, Evan." The words hang in the air between us like a challenge. She's waiting for me to say it back, to play along with the charade for just a little longer. "Have fun in Cleveland," I say instead, and hang up. Tomorrow, Jerry and I are going to have a very interesting conversation with the folks at Morrison Tech. And after that, the real fun begins. I pour myself 3 fingers of bourbon and raise the glass in a toast to my empty house. To new beginnings, I say out loud, and to people getting exactly what they deserve. Monday morning arrives with the kind of crisp autumn air that makes everything seem possible. I'm standing outside Morrison Tech's corporate headquarters at exactly 9 a.m., wearing my best suit and carrying a briefcase that contains enough evidence to end several careers. Jerry Mullins looks like he was born to practice law, tall, silver-haired, with the kind of commanding presence that makes people stop talking when he enters a room. He's wearing a $1,000 suit and carrying himself like a man who's about to collect a very large fee. "You ready for this?" he asks as we approach the main entrance. "I've been ready for weeks." "Good. Remember, let me do most of the talking. Your job is to look calm and confident, while I destroy them with facts and legal precedent." The Morrison Tech lobby is all marble and glass, designed to impress visitors and intimidate employees. The security guard recognizes me and starts to say something, but Jerry cuts him off with a look that could freeze water. "We're here to see Danielle Hayes," Jerry announces to the receptionist. "Tell her it's about Evan Rourke's employment situation." The receptionist, a young woman who looks like she'd rather be anywhere else, makes a nervous phone call. I can hear Danielle's voice through the receiver, sharp and irritated. "She'll be right down," the receptionist says, not meeting our eyes. Danielle Hayes appears 5 minutes later, looking every inch the corporate executive in her designer suit and perfectly styled hair. She's always reminded me of a shark, all teeth and carnivory instincts circling for the eliminate. Evan, she says with false warmth, I wasn't expecting to see you here. I thought you understood that your termination was final. My client has some questions about his employment contract, Jerry says smoothly. Perhaps we could discuss this in your office. Danielle's smile falters slightly. She wasn't expecting a lawyer, and certainly not one who looks like he charges $500 an hour. Of course, right this way. The elevator ride to the executive floor is silent except for the soft jazz playing through hidden speakers. Danielle keeps glancing at Jerry like she's trying to figure out what kind of threat he represents. If she only knew. Her office is exactly what you'd expect. Oversized desk, leather chairs, wall-to-wall windows with a view of the city. The kind of space designed to make visitors feel small and powerless. Please, sit down, she says, settling behind her desk like a general preparing for battle. What can I do for you, gentlemen? Jerry opens his briefcase and removes a thick folder. We're here to discuss the terms of Mr. Rourke's separation agreement. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. Mr. Rourke was terminated for cause. There is no separation agreement. Actually, Jerry says, sliding a document across the desk, there is. Section 12 of his original employment contract specifically addresses termination during scheduled vacation periods. Danielle picks up the document and starts reading. I watch her face change as she realizes what she's looking at. The confidence drains away, replaced by something that looks suspiciously like panic. This can't be right. I'm afraid it is. Mr. Rourke was scheduled to begin his vacation this morning. Your termination email was sent while he was on approved leave, which triggers the enhanced severance clause. Jerry removes another document from his folder. 10 times normal severance for each year of service. Mr. Rourke has been with Morrison Tech for exactly 10 years. I believe that comes to approximately $1.2 million. The number hangs in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Danielle's face has gone completely white, and her hands are shaking as she reaches for her phone. I need to call our legal department, she says, by all means. But I should mention that we have documentation proving Mr. Rourke's termination was retaliatory rather than performance-based. If Morrison Tech chooses to fight this, we'll be filing a wrongful termination lawsuit that will make the severance payment look like pocket change. Jerry slides another folder across the desk. Email chains between you and upper management. Modified performance reviews. Communications with third parties regarding Mr. Rourke's employment status. All very interesting reading. Danielle opens the folder and starts flipping through the pages. With each document, she seems to shrink a little more into her chair. Where did you get this? That's not really relevant, Jerry says. What's relevant is that your company is facing a very expensive legal battle unless we can resolve this matter quickly and quietly. My phone buzzes with a text message. Lila, probably wondering why I'm not home wallowing in self-pity like she expected. How are you holding up? I know this is hard, but everything happens for a reason. I show the message to Jerry, who smiles like a wolf. Actually, there's one more thing, he says to Danielle. We have evidence that Mr. Rourke's wife was involved in the decision to terminate his employment. That could complicate any divorce proceedings that might arise from this situation. Danielle's face goes from white to green. She's smart enough to realize that her sister's marriage is about to implode, and that the money they were counting on is about to disappear. I need to make some calls, she says weakly. Of course, we'll wait. The next hour is a masterclass in corporate panic management. Danielle makes frantic phone calls to the legal department, the CEO's office, and several other executives who clearly weren't expecting to deal with this kind of crisis on a Monday morning. Jerry and I sit quietly in the corner watching the show. Every few minutes, Danielle glances at us like she's hoping we'll disappear, but we're not going anywhere until this gets resolved. Finally, the CEO himself appears. Richard Morrison is a man in his 60s who built this company from nothing and doesn't appreciate surprises that threaten his bottom line. Gentlemen, he says, shaking our hands, I understand we have a situation to resolve. A very expensive situation, Jerry confirms, but one that can be handled quietly if everyone is reasonable. Morrison looks at the documents Jerry has spread across Danielle's desk, then at Danielle herself. I can practically see him calculating the cost of a legal battle versus the cost of just paying me what I'm owed. The severance payment is substantial, he says finally, but much less than what a jury would award in a wrongful termination case, Jerry points out, especially when they see evidence of conspiracy and retaliation. Morrison nods slowly. He's been in business long enough to know when he's beaten. Draw up the paperwork, he tells Danielle. Mr. Rourke will have his money by the end of the week. All of it, Jerry adds, plus interest and legal fees. Agreed. We shake hands again, and I can see the resignation in Morrison's eyes. He's not happy about this, but he's smart enough to cut his losses. As we're leaving, Danielle pulls me aside. This won't change anything, you know, she says quietly. Lila's still going to leave you. You can't buy back a marriage. You're absolutely right, I tell her. But I can make sure she leaves with exactly what she deserves, which is nothing. The look on her face is worth every penny I'm about to receive. Outside the building, Jerry and I shake hands one more time. That went better than I expected, he says. They'll have the money transferred by Friday. What are you going to do now? Now the real fun begins. I pull out my phone and call Marty. It's done, I tell him. Time for phase 2. What do you need? Everything you can find on Brandon Cross, where he lives, where he works, what he drives, who he owes money to. I want to know everything about his life. Already on it. Meet me at the gym in an hour. I've got some interesting information to share. I spend the drive across town thinking about Lila's text message. Everything happens for a reason. She's right about that, but probably not in the way she intended. Everything does happen for a reason, and the reason for all of this is that some people think they can take whatever they want without consequences. They're about to learn how wrong they are. The information Marty has gathered on Brandon Cross reads like a profile of every entitled corporate climber I've ever met. Expensive tastes, leveraged lifestyle, and the kind of arrogance that comes from never facing real consequences for his actions. He's got a condo downtown, drives a BMW lease, and spends more on clothes than most people make in 6 months, Marty says, sliding a folder across his desk. But here's the interesting part. He's also got serious debt problems. I flip through the surveillance photos and financial records. Brandon at expensive restaurants, Brandon at the country club, Brandon shopping at stores I can't afford. All funded by credit cards and loans that are stretched to the breaking point. How serious are we talking? Serious enough that he's been borrowing against his 401k and taking cash advances to make minimum payments. Your wife picked herself a real winner. That explains the urgency of their timeline. They're not just stealing my money for a romantic fresh start. They need it to keep Brandon from drowning in debt. What about his work situation? Strategic consultant for Hartwell and Associates. Fancy title, but from what I can tell, he's basically a corporate problem solver. Companies hire him to come in, fire people, restructure departments, then disappear before anyone can blame him for the mess he leaves behind. Perfect. A professional destroyer of lives who's about to get a taste of his own medicine. I need you to do something for me, I tell Marty. Something that might seem a little strange. Strange how? I want you to order 365 pairs of the most ridiculous socks you can find. Neon colors, crazy patterns, the works. Have them delivered to Morrison Tech. Attention Danielle Hayes. Marty stares at me for a long moment, then starts laughing. You're going to drive her insane. That's the idea. 1 pair for every day of the year she thought she was going to enjoy my money. I like it. Petty, vindictive, and completely legal. What else? I want to know Brandon's routine, where he goes, when he goes there, who he sees, and I want to know when he's going to be alone and vulnerable. You planning something violent? Nothing violent, but I am planning something memorable. By Wednesday, my severance money has hit my bank account, and the socks have been delivered to Morrison Tech. According to Brian, who's been keeping me updated on the office drama, Danielle spent 2 hours trying to figure out who sent them before finally having security remove the entire pile from her office. The story spread through the company like wildfire. Everyone knows about my severance payment by now, and everyone knows that Danielle is the reason I got fired in the first place. The sock delivery just confirms what people already suspected, that I'm not going quietly into the night. Lila calls Wednesday evening, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. Evan, we need to talk. About what? About the money, the severance payment. I know you're angry, but we're still married. That money belongs to both of us. I'm sitting in my living room looking at the financial documents Jerry prepared for me earlier today. Thanks to a prenuptial agreement Lila insisted on when we got married, the severance payment is considered my separate property. She can't touch a penny of it. Actually, sweetheart, that's not how it works. You might want to review our prenup. There's a long silence on the other end of the line. What are you talking about? The prenuptial agreement you made me sign. The one that protects your assets from me in case of divorce. Funny thing about legal documents, they work both ways. You can't just, I can, and I am. In fact, I've already filed for divorce. You should be getting served with the papers tomorrow morning. The sound she makes is somewhere between a gasp and a scream. In the background, I can hear Brandon's voice, demanding to know what's wrong. You fool, she hisses into the phone. You can't do this to me. Actually, I can, and I am. Have a nice life, Lila. Try not to spend all of Brandon's money too quickly. I hang up and immediately call Jerry to let him know the papers have been served. Phase 3 of my plan is about to begin, and I want everything documented properly. Thursday morning, I drive to Morrison Tech and park across the street from the main entrance. At exactly 8:30 a.m., a delivery truck pulls up and starts unloading boxes. Lots and lots of boxes. I called in a favor from an old army buddy who runs a prank gift company. 365 pairs of socks, each one more ridiculous than the last. Neon green with purple polka dots, hot pink with glittery unicorns, orange and black stripes that could probably be seen from space. The delivery driver needs 3 trips to get all the boxes into the lobby, and I can see people gathering to watch the spectacle. Someone takes a picture with their phone, and within minutes it's probably spreading across social media. My phone rings just as the delivery truck is pulling away. What the hell is wrong with you? Danielle's voice is shaking with rage. I have no idea what you're talking about. The socks, you psychopath. 365 pairs of the most hideous socks I've ever seen. Sounds like someone has a secret admirer. This is maltreatment. Actually, it's a gift. Anonymous, untraceable, and completely legal. Enjoy your retirement, Danielle. I hang up and drive home feeling better than I have in weeks. But the day is far from over. That evening, I'm at Vera's Tavern, enjoying a beer and the company of people who actually like me when my phone buzzes with a text from Marty. Brandon's at the gym, alone. Now's your chance. I finish my beer, leave money on the bar, and drive across town to the upscale fitness club where Brandon works out. It's the kind of place that charges $300 a month for the privilege of sweating next to investment bankers and real estate developers. I find him in the parking lot, loading his gym bag into the trunk of his BMW. He's exactly what I expected. Tall, handsome, with the kind of artificial tan that comes from expensive salons rather than actual sunlight. Brandon Cross, I say, walking up behind him. He turns around and I can see the moment he recognizes me. His face goes from confused to worried to angry in about 3 seconds. You're Lila's husband. Soon-to-be ex-husband. We need to talk. I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a great idea. See, I know all about your little plan, the affair, the money, the new life in California. Very romantic. Brandon closes his trunk and faces me fully. He's bigger than me, younger than me, and probably thinks he can intimidate me with his size. Look, man, I'm sorry about your marriage, but that's between you and Lila. Actually, it's between me, Lila, and the man who's been planning to spend my money. I step closer, and something in my expression makes him take a step back. Here's the thing, Brandon. That money you've been counting on, it's gone. All of it. Locked up in accounts that Lila can't touch, protected by legal documents that are tighter than a submarine. You're lying. Am I? Call her. Ask her about the divorce papers. Ask her about the prenup. Ask her about how much of my severance payment she's entitled to. I can see the doubt creeping into his eyes. He pulls out his phone and starts dialing, but I'm not done talking. While you're at it, ask her about the debt consolidation loan she took out last month. The one she was planning to pay off with my money. Or the credit card she maxed out buying clothes for your romantic getaways. His phone call goes straight to voicemail. Lila isn't answering, which tells him everything he needs to know. You son of a witch, he says, but there's no real anger in it, just the dawning realization that his meal ticket has disappeared. I'm not the one who destroyed your life, Brandon. You did that all by yourself when you decided to sleep with another man's wife. I turn to walk away, then pause and look back at him. Oh, and Brandon, you might want to get your car detailed. Something smells off. The look of confusion on his face is priceless. He won't figure out about the fish Marty planted under his seat until tomorrow, but by then the smell will be permanently embedded in the upholstery. I'm halfway home when my phone rings. Lila calling from what sounds like a very loud, very public place. You destroyed everything. She screams into the phone. Brandon won't even talk to me now. Funny how that works. When the money disappears, so does the romance. I gave you the best years of my life. No, you gave me the most expensive years of your life. There's a difference. I hang up and turn off my phone. Tomorrow is going to be even more interesting than today, and I want to get a good night's sleep before the final act begins. At home, I pour myself a drink and sit in my living room, looking around at the house Lila and I shared for 10 years. It feels different now. Lighter, somehow. Like a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying has been lifted from my shoulders. My phone buzzes with one last text message before I turn it off for the night. It's from Vera. Heard about the socks. You're buying drinks for the whole bar tomorrow night. I smile and type back, it'll be my pleasure. Tomorrow I'm going to finish what Lila and her family started. But tonight, I'm going to enjoy the peace and quiet of my own home, knowing that for the first time in months, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Friday morning brings news that makes my coffee taste even better than usual. According to Brian, who's become my unofficial Morrison tech correspondent, Danielle Hayes has been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into irregularities in the HR department. Apparently, when the CEO started looking into my termination, he found a pattern of similar problems. Other employees who'd been fired under questionable circumstances, other performance reviews that had been mysteriously modified, other cases where Danielle's personal feelings seemed to influence her professional decisions. She's done, Brian tells me over the phone. Word is they're going to announce her termination Monday morning. They're just waiting for legal to finish the paperwork. What about her pension? Gone, along with her severance package and her company car. They're treating this as a termination for cause. Perfect. Danielle spent so much energy destroying my career that she forgot to protect her own. But Danielle is just the appetizer. The main course is still to come. I spend Friday afternoon conducting surveillance on Brandon's routine, learning his patterns and identifying opportunities. He's a creature of habit. Gym at 7 a.m., office by 9, lunch at the same upscale restaurant every day, drinks at the country club on Friday evenings. Today, however, his routine is disrupted. Instead of his usual confident swagger, he looks nervous and distracted. His phone keeps ringing, and each call seems to make him more agitated. I follow him from his office to his condo, keeping enough distance to avoid detection, but close enough to observe his behavior. He's definitely rattled, probably trying to figure out how to salvage his financial situation now that my money is off the table. At 6 p.m., I make my move. Brandon's condo is in one of those converted warehouse buildings that developers love to market as urban lofts. All exposed brick and industrial fixtures, designed to make young professionals feel edgy and sophisticated. The building's security is impressive, but not impenetrable. A pizza delivery uniform and a clipboard can get you past most doormen, especially during the dinner rush when they're too busy to ask detailed questions. I'm not here to steal anything or cause property damage. I'm here to send a message. Brandon's apartment is exactly what I expected. Expensive furniture, expensive electronics, expensive art on the walls. Everything carefully chosen to project success and sophistication, all of it probably bought with borrowed money. I spend the next hour rearranging his life in subtle but unmistakable ways. Every book on his shelves gets moved exactly 3 inches to the left. Every picture frame gets rotated 15 degrees clockwise. Every piece of clothing in his closet gets reorganized by color instead of type. In his kitchen, I rearrange the contents of his refrigerator in alphabetical order. In his bathroom, I replace his expensive cologne with honey from a squeeze bottle I brought with me. The final touch is a note placed prominently on his pillow. Next time, it's bees. By the time I'm finished, Brandon's perfect life looks like it's been visited by the world's most obsessive-compulsive burglar. Nothing is missing, nothing is damaged, but everything is wrong in ways that will drive him slowly insane. I'm back home by 8 p.m., just in time for the evening's entertainment. Lila arrives at 9:30, letting herself in with the key she still hasn't returned. She looks terrible, hair disheveled, makeup smeared, wearing the same clothes she had on yesterday. "We need to talk," she says, standing in my living room like she still belongs here. "Actually, we don't. Our lawyers can handle everything from here." "Evan, please, I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this." "Mistakes? Is that what we're calling infidelity and theft now?" She starts crying, but they're the calculated tears of someone who's used to getting her way through emotional manipulation. I never meant for things to go this far. Brandon, he promised me things would be different. He said we could have a real future together. How's that working out for you? He won't return my calls. He says it's over, that he can't afford to be associated with someone going through a messy divorce. I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. So, let me get this straight. You destroyed our marriage for a man who dumped you the moment the money disappeared? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. No, it was supposed to happen with you stealing my severance payment and riding off into the sunset with your boyfriend. The only difference is that I found out about your plan before you could execute it. She looks around the living room like she's seeing it for the first time, taking in the changes I've made since she left. New furniture, new artwork, new everything that doesn't remind me of our life together. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now you leave. You find somewhere else to live. You get your own lawyer, and you learn to live with the consequences of your choices. I don't have anywhere to go. My credit cards are maxed out, my savings are gone, and Danielle lost her job today. That sounds like a you problem. She stares at me for a long moment, probably trying to figure out when I stopped being the pushover she married. You've changed, she says finally. No, I've just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. After she leaves, I pour myself a drink and call Marty to give him an update on the evening's activities. How did Brandon react to your little home invasion? He asks. Haven't heard from him yet, but I'm sure he's having an interesting evening. And Lila? Reality is starting to set in. She's beginning to understand that actions have consequences. Good. What's next? Tomorrow night, we're having a party. Vera's place. I want everyone to know exactly what kind of people they were dealing with. You sure that's wise? Might be better to just let things fade away quietly. Marty, these people tried to destroy my life and steal my money. They thought they were so smart, so clever, so untouchable. I want everyone in this town to know exactly who they really are. Your call, but be careful. Desperate people do desperate things. He's right, of course, but I'm past the point of being careful. I'm ready to finish what they started. Saturday evening, Vera's Tavern is packed with the usual crowd, plus a few dozen extra people who heard about the party through the local gossip network. Word travels fast in a city this size, especially when it involves corporate scandal and marital drama. I'm holding court at the bar, buying drinks and telling anyone who'll listen the real story of what happened at Morrison Tech. The illegal termination, the modified performance reviews, the conspiracy between Lila and her sister to steal my severance payment. So there I was, I tell the crowd, sitting in that boardroom with my lawyer, watching Danielle's face turn white as she realized what she'd done. Turns out firing someone during their scheduled vacation triggers a clause that multiplies the severance payment by 10. The crowd laughs and cheers. These are working-class people who've all dealt with corporate bureaucracy at some point, and they love seeing the little guy win for once. But that's not the best part, I continue. The best part is that my soon-to-be ex-wife and her boyfriend were counting on that money to fund their new life together. When they found out they couldn't touch it, he dumped her faster than a hot potato. More laughter, more cheers. Someone buys me another drink. That's when Brandon walks in. The bar goes quiet as he makes his way through the crowd, looking like a man who hasn't slept in days. His expensive suit is wrinkled, his hair is messed up, and there's a wild look in his eyes that suggests he's not entirely stable at the moment. You, he says, pointing at me. You think you're so smart, don't you? I think I'm smart enough not to sleep with other men's wives. You destroyed my life. Actually, you destroyed your own life. I just made sure you couldn't rebuild it with my money. Brandon pushes through the crowd until he's standing right in front of me. He's bigger than me, younger than me, and probably thinks he can intimidate me in front of all these people. You broke into my apartment. You messed with my stuff. You're going to pay for that. Prove it. He takes a swing at me, but I saw it coming from across the room. 10 years in the Army teaches you to read body language, and Brandon telegraphs his punches like an amateur. I duck under his wild haymaker and come up with a short, sharp jab to his solar plexus that drops him to his knees. The crowd erupts in cheers and applause. Stay down, I tell him. You're embarrassing yourself. But Brandon isn't done yet. He gets back to his feet and charges at me like a wounded bull, all rage and no technique. This time I don't hold back. I sidestep his charge, grab his arm, and use his own momentum to send him crashing into a table full of empty beer bottles. The sound of breaking glass fills the bar, followed by more cheers from the crowd. Brandon tries to get up one more time, but Marty appears beside him and puts a hand on his shoulder. I think you've had enough for one night, Marty says quietly. Why don't you go home and think about your life choices? Brandon looks around the bar at all the faces staring back at him, working-class people who've never liked his type and now have even more reason to despise him. He's outnumbered, outclassed, and completely out of his element. This isn't over, he says, but his voice lacks conviction. Yeah, it is, I tell him. It's been over since the moment you decided to mess with the wrong man's life. Brandon stumbles toward the door, leaving behind a trail of blood from the cuts on his hands and the last shreds of his dignity. The bar erupts in celebration as he disappears into the night. Someone starts a chant of, "Evan, Evan, Evan," and soon the whole place is joining in. I raise my glass to the crowd and smile. To justice, I say, and to people getting exactly what they deserve. The crowd drinks to that, and I know that this story will be told and retold for years to come. The story of how a fired corporate manager took on the system and won. The story of how the little guy got his revenge on the people who tried to destroy him. But more than that, it's the story of how I found out who I really am when everything else was stripped away. Not the mild-mannered husband who let people walk all over him, but the man who fought back when fighting back was the only option left. As the party continues around me, I think about Lila and Danielle and Brandon, probably sitting alone somewhere, wondering how their perfect plan went so wrong. They thought they were dealing with a sufferer. Instead, they found out they were dealing with a survivor, and survivors, by definition, are the ones who are still standing when the smoke clears. Sunday morning arrives with the kind of hangover that comes from drinking too much whiskey and enjoying it too much to care. But even through the pounding in my head, I can't stop smiling. The local newspaper has picked up the story. Not the whole story, of course, but enough to make it interesting. "A local man wins big in corporate severance dispute," reads the headline, accompanied by a photo of Morrison Tech's headquarters and a brief description of my legal victory. What the newspaper doesn't mention is the rest of the story. The infidelity, the conspiracy, the spectacular downfall of everyone who tried to destroy me. That story is spreading through different channels. Social media, word of mouth, the kind of gossip that travels faster than official news. My phone has been buzzing all morning with calls and text messages, old friends congratulating me, former co-workers asking for details, reporters wanting interviews. I ignore most of them, but there's one call I have to take. "Evan, it's Jerry. We need to talk." "What's up?" "Lila's lawyer called this morning. She wants to negotiate a settlement." "What kind of settlement?" "The kind where she gets half of everything, including your severance payment." I laugh so hard I almost drop the phone. "Tell her lawyer that she can have half of everything she brought to the marriage, which, if I remember correctly, was about $3,000 in credit card debt and a car that barely ran." "That's what I figured you'd say. But there's something else. Brandon Cross filed a police report claiming you broke into his apartment and vandalized his property." "Interesting. What kind of evidence does he have?" "None that would hold up in court. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no security footage. Just his word against yours. And my word is that I was home all evening, probably watching Netflix. I'm sure my neighbors would confirm that if anyone asked." Jerry chuckles. "I'm sure they would. The police aren't taking it seriously anyway. Sounds like they think he's just a sore loser trying to cause trouble." After I hang up with Jerry, I spend the rest of the morning cleaning my house and getting rid of the last traces of my marriage. Lila's clothes, her books, her decorative knickknacks that never made sense to me anyway. Everything goes into boxes that will be delivered to her sister's house, since Danielle is apparently the only family member still speaking to her. By noon, the house feels like it belongs to me again. Clean, organized, and free of the clutter that accumulates when two people try to build a life together but want completely different things. I'm just finishing lunch when my doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I can see a woman I don't recognize. Middle-aged, well-dressed, with the kind of nervous energy that suggests she's here on official business. "Mr. Rourke, my name is Patricia Williams. I'm a reporter with Channel 7 News. I was hoping I could ask you a few questions about your situation with Morrison Tech." Normally, I'd send her away without a second thought, but something about her approach seems different from the usual media vultures who circle around stories like this. "What kind of questions?" "The kind that might help other people who find themselves in similar situations. Corporate retaliation is more common than most people realize, and your case could serve as an example of how to fight back." I invite her in and make coffee while she sets up her camera equipment. Patricia Williams turns out to be exactly what she appears to be, a legitimate journalist who's interested in the broader implications of my story rather than just the salacious details. "How did you know to check your employment contract for that severance clause?" she asks once we're settled in my living room. "I didn't. My lawyer found it. But the real lesson here is that you should never assume the people in power are looking out for your interests. They're looking out for their own interests, and sometimes that means cutting corners or bending rules." What advice would you give to someone facing a similar situation? Document everything. Keep copies of all your performance reviews, all your email communications, anything that might be relevant if things go bad. And don't be afraid to get a lawyer involved early in the process. We talked for about an hour, covering the legal aspects of my case and the broader issues of corporate accountability. Patricia is professional and thorough, asking follow-up questions that show she's done her homework. One last question, she says as she's packing up her equipment. Do you have any regrets about how this all played out? I think about that for a moment. Do I regret the end of my marriage? The destruction of relationships I thought were important? The public humiliation of people who used to be part of my life? No, I say finally. I regret that it took me so long to stand up for myself, but I don't regret fighting back when fighting back was necessary. The interview airs Sunday evening, and by Monday morning it's been picked up by several other news outlets. Suddenly, I'm getting calls from employment lawyers across the country who want to know more about my case. Labor rights organizations are asking me to speak at conferences. A literary agent wants to know if I'm interested in writing a book about my experience. It's flattering, but I'm not interested in becoming a professional sufferer or a corporate whistleblower. I just wanted to get what was mine and make sure the people who tried to steal it faced consequences for their actions. Speaking of consequences, Monday brings news that makes everything feel complete. Danielle Hayes has been officially terminated from Morrison Tech, with the company announcing that they're reviewing all of her decisions over the past 5 years. Several other employees who were fired under questionable circumstances are being offered their jobs back, along with back pay and legal settlements. Brandon Cross has been quietly let go from his consulting firm, apparently due to performance issues that coincidentally appeared right after his public meltdown at Vera's Tavern. His BMW has been repossessed, his condo is going into foreclosure, and word around town is that he's moved back in with his parents while he figures out his next move. And Lila? Lila is discovering what life is like when you burn all your bridges and have nowhere left to run. Her credit is destroyed, her job prospects are limited by her association with the Morrison Tech scandal, and her family relationships are strained by her role in Danielle's downfall. She calls me Monday evening, one last time. Evan, I need help. No, you don't. You need to learn how to help yourself. I'm going to lose my apartment. I can't make the rent without help. Then find a cheaper apartment, or get a roommate, or move back in with your parents. You're a grown woman, Lila. Figure it out. Please. I know I made mistakes, but I'm still your wife. Actually, you're not. The divorce was finalized this afternoon. You're my ex-wife now. There's a difference. The silence on the other end of the line stretches out for a long time. I never thought it would end like this, she says finally. You never thought at all. That was always your problem. I hang up and turn off my phone. Tomorrow, I'm starting a new job with a company that actually values experience and integrity. The salary is good, the benefits are excellent, and my new boss specifically recruited me because of my reputation for standing up to corporate bullying. But tonight, I'm going back to Vera's Tavern to celebrate with the people who stood by me when everything fell apart. The bar is packed again, but this time it's not because of drama or conflict. It's because word has gotten around that I'm buying drinks for everyone who supported me through the worst period of my life. To Evan Rourke, Vera shouts as I walk through the door. The man who proved that sometimes the good guys actually do win. The crowd erupts in cheers, and I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Genuine happiness. Not the temporary satisfaction of revenge, but the deep contentment that comes from knowing you did the right thing even when it was difficult. I raise my glass to the crowd and look around at all the faces. Working class people who understand the value of loyalty and integrity, who know the difference between justice and vengeance. To all of you, I say, for showing me what real friendship looks like. We drink to that, and the party continues long into the night. Stories are told, jokes are shared, and plans are made for future gatherings that won't involve corporate scandals or marital drama. As the evening winds down, I find myself standing outside the bar, looking up at the stars and thinking about everything that's happened over the past few weeks. Lila and Danielle and Brandon thought they were so smart, so sophisticated, so much better than everyone else. They thought they could manipulate the system and the people around them to get whatever they wanted. But they made one crucial mistake. They forgot that some people fight back when you push them too far. They thought they were dealing with a sufferer. Instead, they discovered they were dealing with someone who refused to be victimized. The exit clause in my employment contract paid me far more than just money. It paid me back my self-respect. my sense of justice, and my faith in the idea that actions have consequences. They wanted to destroy me and take everything I had worked for. Instead, they gave me everything I needed to build a better life. No forgiveness, no second chances, no redemption arcs or lessons learned. Just me, standing in the cool night air, knowing that I fought back when fighting back mattered most. The exit clause paid in full. They thought they could ruin me. Instead, they gave me everything,